Hello, welcome to this introduction for my new series, Sefer Jonah, verse by verse. This series will be an exclusive for my patrons over on Patreon. For patrons at any level who offer their support, they will get access to this exciting new series. I have big things planned, so let's talk a little bit about what I hope to accomplish in this series. So first of all, the Sefer Jonah is part of what is in the Tanakh, which is called the Trei Asar, the 12 prophets. This is really one book in the collection of prophets in the Tanakh. Sometimes it's also called the Nevi'im Achronim, the later prophets. In non-Jewish Bibles, it is frequently called either the minor or the later prophets. The book of Jonah itself is part of the Yom Kippur liturgy. Every year I hate the fact that because of everybody fasting, that people frequently miss out on how delicious, how interesting Sefer Jonah is, the book of Jonah. There's a lot to think about in the book. And sadly, because it is on Yom Kippur and it is read late in the day, frequently people are a little too far into their fast to really give the book its due attention. The reason it's part of the Yom Kippur liturgy is because central to the book itself are themes of universalism and also the power of repentance. The power of doing tshuva, returning to God. So why should we study Jonah? Why should a student of Hebrew study Jonah? Well, first of all, it is a short and self-contained book. I'm sure anybody who's read the Bible knows that many of the books are long and expansive, and Jonah is relatively short, not relative, it's very short and self-contained, and it is a doable project for the Hebrew student. Another reason why it is good is because unlike many of the prophetic books, the book of Jonah has a narrative style, and that tends to be a little easier to interpret and translate. Some of the styles for the other books, the other prophetic books, for instance, Yeshaya, Isaiah, Yechezkel, Ezekiel, Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, the style in these books are sort of their own thing and can be difficult for new Hebrew students. But Jonah does not have those issues. Again, it's a fairly narrative style, so that lends itself to an easy time studying and reading the book. Also, the Hebrew here is in a very consistent style, and that it's a narrative style. Many of the verbs tend to be in the same person. We see frequent conjugations come up. That's a big issue in Hebrew. So the style here is fairly consistent, and that is a boon to students of Hebrew. It really helps out, builds confidence in reading Hebrew and feeling like the student is covering ground. Okay, so what do I hope to accomplish in this series? So, as people have seen my other series, I'm sure have seen the kind of work I do. I try to do very sort of meat and potatoes, basic work, dealing with grammar, dealing with vocabulary. This will be my first series in which I attempt to go through an entire portion of the Tanakh. And what I hope to do is I hope to, for every verse, produce a video in which I describe the grammar, every point of grammar in a verse. Then I will point the viewer, the student, back into the textbook. I tend to use the First Hebrew Primer as the textbook for my students. So I'll point them back into that book as to where these various points of grammar are discussed. Places where I feel that the primer does not do a great job, I will try to fill in and describe what's going on, so as to sort of fill in the gaps that the primer leaves in the mind of the student. Also, I hope to give all the vocabulary. I hope to define all the words, discuss all the words in every verse. Finally, I hope to produce a translation, a reasonable translation, fairly literal translation, to assist the learner as we go verse by verse. Hopefully, this process, as we build through each verse, this will build confidence and a sense that this is doable for the student. Finally, I hope to, for each verse where there's relevant commentators, interesting commentaries, I hope to make a selection for each verse and offer it in a B video. So potentially we could have 2 videos for each verse, and as long as I find sufficiently interesting comments, we'll offer those as well. And for the student that's interested in that sort of material, wants to experience or sample what these traditional commentators look like, how they speak, what sort of themes they touch on, that should be interesting as well. So anyway, I hope that I will have people following me on this. Again, this series will be exclusive for my supporters over on Patreon, and that's support at any level, even as much as $1 a month. If you feel that this is sufficiently interesting, if this sounds interesting to you and you would like to follow me in this project, please feel free to follow the link to my Patreon page in the comments below, and hopefully we can go further with this. You will benefit from my efforts. Okay, I wish you the best. I hope to see you. As always, if you have questions, feel free to send me your questions. I wish you the best. Kol Tuv, Hatzlacha Rabba. Keep learning.